Welcome to That's What He Said, a show where two self-proclaimed football geniuses will tell you what's going on in the world of SEC football, and we'll share our vast wisdom with you and our predictions that never fail and our observations about the week gone by. And what a week it was, and what a week it's going to be this weekend. Some big games this weekend. LSU at Auburn.
Two big games, yeah.
We have Bama, Ole Miss. And one of the most interesting matchups that we have both agreed is possibly the most interesting matchup of the week is Vanderbilt at Notre Dame.
Vanderbilt traveling to Notre Dame. The line right now in the game, 14.5 points. That's a very interesting number. Obviously, a lot to talk about. Again, though, definitely an intriguing matchup. What can Vandy do on the road against a big-time opponent and a historic program and in Notre Dame?
And so we're going to get into that tonight. I'm Lee.
And I'm Brandon.
And this is That's What He Said. So let's hit the ground running. And as you'll notice, I do have on a hat that says Tennessee on it, or at least has a Tennessee logo, because
you're a man of your word.
I am a man of my word. I predicted that South Carolina would not score more than 10.
I feel like I should be wearing something because I did pick South Carolina to win.
Yeah, I feel like that I was more right.
Yeah. That
I wasn't as wrong.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm the one who opened my big mouth, so I'm keeping my word. I'm wearing this hat, and I'm going to take it off just as soon as I can. Be sure to stay tuned to the end of the show because we're going to be making predictions on winners and losers, and we've got some pretty outlandish picks that I'm sure you'll disagree with, or you'll agree with, or you'll like us or hate us for. So be sure to stay to the end of the show, and we're going to disagree on some things. I'm sure of it.
Well, let's get right to it. Obviously, a great week two in the books. Some great matchups in the SEC. Some surprising games. Mm-hmm. But let's start with the NCAA game of the week. College Game Day was there live at Kyle Field in Aggieland to watch Clemson take on Texas A&M. Obviously, Clemson comes out with a 28-26 win. What an overall incredible atmosphere for college football at night in the SEC.
The magic pylon. I think we'll hear about that from years to come. It's a conspiracy theory.
It is, and we're gonna talk a good amount about that. But just to start off, Kellen Mond. I mean, there is no quarterback controversy at all. Nick Starkel, a very good athlete who will have his chance to bring something to this team. Right now, A&M's going to go offensively as Kellen Mond and Travion Williams go. Kellen Mond, big night, 23 of 40. 430 yards, 3 touchdowns. Not much more you can ask of your quarterback. The way he ran around, extended plays, used his legs, gave his receivers. His receivers came back to him a lot in that game. A little upsetting though, only 70 yards rushing total for A&M. So obviously they got to try to find some things to where they can balance the offense a little bit better. But again, 3 minutes to go in the game. A&M down by 8 points. Kellen Mond hits Quandre Davis. Makes a move, gets to the outside as any athlete is going to do. Tries to reach out for the pylon. Ball comes loose. What did you see after looking at it?
From the pylon, which is not an official camera, I don't know. I've heard so many different theories on it now that I'm not really sure. To me, it looked like the ball went out of bounds.
Okay.
I didn't see it going in the end zone. But what they're saying is that as the ball went over the pylon, you can't determine where it ended. You can only determine where it was going. So they don't have absolute proof that it did go out of bounds. It was headed that direction. But since the pylon is not an official camera, I don't even know how much of that they can count anyway.
So based on the pylon camera and the regular views that we saw on TV and ESPN and all their cameras and everything, in your opinion, were either of the officials, the back judge or the side judge, in perfect position to deem that it went through the end zone?
Now, you and I have talked about this, and other people have talked about it, and I haven't heard anybody who's saying that they were. I don't see how they were.
I don't see how you can determine. So my question is, why not call it out of bounds, since that is the logical thing, and then you obviously go to replay and you determine it one way or the other. I guess I'm wondering why it was deemed that way to start.
Yeah, and then when you can't determine it for sure, all of a sudden it has to go with what was called on the field.
Right.
And that's not really fair that you would make a turnover be the default go-to when you can't determine what the camera showed. So that was just a little clumsy there. That they need to get some of that with the instant replay, determining what the default call needs to be in some of those situations, because it just seems a little harsh to turn the ball over when you can't even determine if it was a touchback or
Jimbo Fisher obviously irate, pointing to the video board. at the stadium, saying there's no way you can determine that. So, obviously, something to look at there. Absolutely. At that point in the game and everything, what happens though? Any other team probably that thinking that maybe their last chance in the game. A&M's got 2 timeouts left. Right at again about just a little under 3 minutes to go. They get the stop on defense, hold Clemson on 3rd and short. They get the ball back. They are helped out. Clemson shanks a punt, and A&M starts right at midfield. Okay. They drive down, 46 seconds left. Kendrick Rogers, his 2nd touchdown pass of the game, comes up with 46 seconds left off a Clemson defender and juggled and caught in the end zone. Okay, so the place comes alive again. Unfortunately, the 2-point conversion did not go their way. We all know what's coming next with the onside kick. Hoobit Hunter Renfro, one of the more outstanding players for Clemson, a walk-on, earned his way. Receiver, one of the, I know you don't like to talk about this game, but one of the heroes in the Clemson-Alabama National Championship game a couple of years ago with his play at receiver. He comes up with the reception. Clemson holds on to win 28-26. Again, though, the Aggie defense settling in a little bit more. Obviously giving up a couple of big plays early, but I don't know how you can't just be very optimistic offensively because of what Kellen Mond is bringing to this offense. That's 2 straight weeks now. He's dialed in. He's played a tune-up game, and he's played a for real, more than likely college football playoff team. And for him to go for 430 yards against that defense, 3 scores, be able to extend plays like we said earlier with his legs, you can't ask for much more out of your starting quarterback.
No, and they could have and maybe should have won that game. I think the rushing attack, the rushing game needs to be stronger.
Travion Williams has got to be more productive. I think we both agree on that.
But, there's upside there because I think that they can get it done.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you have that kind of threat at quarterback, what probably happened is that Clemson decided they were going to force the pass because this is a young quarterback, an unknown. They're going to try to force the pass.
Right.
So they stopped the run. They put all the attention on the run to make him pass. And that didn't work out too well because he passed all over them.
Right.
So as defenses begin to play them more balanced, I think that A&M's rushing attack will rise to the occasion and get better over the course of the year. But they could have won that game and possibly should have won that game against a team that was in the national championship game last year. So that's a huge start for A&M. I think even probably the best loss I've seen in a long time as far as showing the quality of a team. I don't believe in moral victories, but if you do believe in moral victories, there's one right there that they were able to do that with a new coach and a young group of guys in first game of the year. So
that being the national stage, the SEC game of the week as we move on to Georgia visiting Williams-Brice Stadium in Columbia, South Carolina. Again, thought South Carolina definitely had the tools and everything to keep it close and possibly pull something out. 37 seconds into the game, Georgia, Jawan Taylor, pick 6. From that point, Georgia did have a 20-10 halftime lead, so South Carolina hanging around. I believe we said in the show, Deebo Samuel possibly with a trick play. They would go with a wide receiver pass into the end zone. South Carolina hanging around tough. 20-10 at halftime. Thoughts on the first half? You're feeling good.
I was thinking South Carolina doesn't need to score again or else I'm going to have to wear a Tennessee hat. That's what I was thinking.
But in the end, too much Georgia in the second half as the Dogs cruise to a 41-17 game. They did score that touchdown for South Carolina late, so you almost didn't have to wear the hat. Georgia rolls, obviously, with Jake Fromm, 15-28, 200 yards, a touchdown. Elijah Holyfield, not the only running back. You think when you lose Sony Michel, you lose Nick Chubb. There may be a void there. They've got 2 other young guys, very similar to what the situation Alabama has. 2 young guys stepping in along with Holyfield. Holyfield, 9 carries, 76 yards, a touchdown. McCole Hardman, we talk about him every week, it seems like one of the best receivers, not only in the SEC, but one of the best in the country. 6 catches, 103 yards, and a touchdown. For South Carolina, Jake Bentley, not a bad day at all. South Carolina threw the ball often Saturday, 30 of 47, 270 yards, a touchdown, but 2 costly interceptions. One of them returned for a touchdown. Brian Edwards on the receiving end of the touchdown late, 7 catches, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns. South Carolina's got the tools. They've got the tools on offense, and they've got a pretty good defense.
Do they have a coach?
That's where a lot of people are going to say. Now, week 2, and there are a couple other games we're going to talk about as well. is it too early to start saying coaches are on the hot seat, whether first year, second year, whatnot?
I think he needs a couple more before. I do. I think he's got a lot of upside himself.
Start of his third year.
Yeah. I think he needs a little more time in a program like that wasn't exactly on top anyway. And I think he could do it. He's a coach that I do like. But in the end, too much Georgia. Like I said, too much Georgia. Even though I didn't get the point total right.
Right.
I'm not going to wear that hat anymore.
I've also learned my lesson. Georgia, you are for real.
Yeah.
You are for real. All right. Moving right along. I'm currently 32 years old, so I don't remember this happening. Do you remember what you were doing 31 years ago?
He's trying to date me, trying to show my age. Do I remember what I was doing 31 years ago? At this exact moment?
At this exact moment.
You know, I was probably eating an ice cream sandwich if it was September.
There you go. Or you could be a Kentucky fan who is enjoying a routine victory over Florida. Would it be 31 years later, though? Saturday night, Kentucky, Stoops gets the monkey off their back. Kentucky rolls into the swamp, comes out with a 27-16 win over Florida. Now, we'll talk a little bit about Dan Mullen and that kind of stuff. Felipe Franks, though, individually, are pretty solid. 232 yards passing. Not much in the running game for Florida with Jordan Scarlett, a lot of other Florida running backs and everything. When Franks is your leading rusher and he's also your drop back passer, areas for concern there. A lot of Felipe Franks' yardage came just on basic little check downs to the running back, that kind of stuff. So Florida's offense, obviously, not quite where it wants to be. Second game under new coach Dan Mullen. We all know Dan Mullen to be a bit of a quarterback, a great quarterback developer. And we'll talk a little more on that. But the play of quarterback from Terry Wilson Saturday night for Kentucky. Only 11 of 16, pretty efficient numbers, 151 yards. 2 big touchdowns, one in the first quarter, one in the third quarter. The one in the third quarter is basically the play of the game. Third and 16 actually, to be exact. He drops back, hits Lynn Bowden Jr. And the last several years of watching Florida play, it seemed like Wilson was absolutely back there forever holding on to that ball. There was no pass rush at all out of Florida. You can attribute that to that possibly being the reason the quarterback's running so well, and maybe they don't want to load up the box and come after him. But 3rd and 16, he gets all the day in the world, drops back again, hits Lynn Bowden on a very deep pass. An absolute bullet he threw, an absolute laser pass. 31-year streak snap though. Okay, But again, Benny Snell, we said this last week. Kentucky's game plan was going to be to run the ball and run the ball often. Okay, only 151 yards through the air. Benny Snell Jr. right at 200 yards total, 175 yards on the ground on 25 carries. It was clear he was the game plan. They were going to go through him and through him often in order to try to get this victory.
So last show I said that if you didn't think Kentucky had improved over the last few years, that you were just wrong.
Right.
That on paper maybe it's just not astronomical, but that it definitely that they had improved, that people had to take them more seriously, that they just seemed like they were playing more purpose, more structure, that it was a good thing. And I think that this just underlines that, and it just shows what a self-proclaimed genius I really am. And when I heard about the victory, because I didn't get to watch all the game, and I was hoping it would end up that way, but I wasn't surprised. I mean, I thought Florida would win just because they're Florida and Kentucky's Kentucky, and it's been 3 decades. But boy, Kentucky.
And you look at the last couple of years too. Kentucky has seemingly had the game in hand, and Florida has, found a way to get it done. And it does feel like a curse at times. Twice last year in the game in Lexington, Kentucky comes out of a timeout with only 10 men on the field. All Florida does is look out to the uncovered wide receiver, throw it to him. They have 2 touchdowns. They have not 1, but 2 touchdowns out of timeouts. And that's the difference in the ball game. Austin McGinnis, arguably Kentucky's best kicker in school history, has a chance with a 57-yarder at the end of the game, comes up just short. Heartbreak in Lexington last year, not so much this year in Florida. The thing I take away from it is Kentucky stayed the course. Kentucky had a game plan, and they stuck to it the entire time. 10-7 at halftime. Terry Wilson did have 2 turnovers in the game, a fumble earlier in the second quarter, and then right before halftime, Kentucky's driving to, at worst, make it 10-10, kick a field goal. Costly interception thrown down on the goal line. But they didn't go to the backup, which the ESPN analysts kept saying maybe they need to go to the backup. It's Brady Hoke's son, so he's obviously got a football background and everything. But they stayed with him. And what he was able to do in the second half, along with Benny Snell and the receivers, the offensive line, the way they opened up holes and pushed that Florida front seven around was pretty incredible to watch.
Could be a psychological springboard for Kentucky. I mean, I can see this being something the players just see themselves now as, we're not just trying to be competitive in the SEC. I mean, we're winning in the SEC against elite teams and beating Florida. Come on, who really looks past Florida? Kentucky has beaten Florida. I mean, that's something I've never been able to say in my lifetime, because when it happened 32 years ago, I didn't care and wasn't old enough to even know what was going on.
I was 6 months old, couldn't even talk. Exactly. The other side of it, though, obviously Stoops is very happy and everything. The other side of it, Dan Mullen, I really admire him in his post game, how he talked about win or loss. We got a lot of issues. Okay, so that's a coach taking up for his team right there. You like to see the ownership there. But where does Florida go from here at this point on offense?
On offense? Well, I'm all for giving Dan Mullen plenty of time. I don't think anybody should be saying that he needs to be fired or that this is not going to work out, because I remind you as an Alabama fan that Saban's first year at Alabama, though we saw a lot of promise, the record didn't exactly show. It was not Saban-esque.
Louisiana Monroe.
Thank you for that. It was not a good year by just typical looking over Alabama's history and their typical performance. Right. But it was a year where you had a quality coach building a system, which is what I think they have at Florida. They're going to have to establish that they can do 2 things well, and I didn't think they did it. They seemed very inconsistent. There were times in the game where the passing game was not working at all. I mean, it was just like there wasn't even one.
Right.
There were other times in the game, I don't know how many times I saw linebackers pushing tailbacks with Florida jerseys on backwards.
Right.
You know, they couldn't even penetrate. And so I didn't see consistency from either side. There were times when one side or the other would shine, but that's typical of most elite SEC teams. So I don't really see an identity yet with Florida. It was an odd offense. It didn't seem like what we saw at Mississippi State. It seemed just like what I guess we could say is that it's a new system,
right.
A new coach. That's all you can say. But right. I didn't see an identity on offense. I didn't see a strength, really. It just seemed like they were just, to be honest with you, it seemed like things were just thrown out there to see what would happen, right. what would work. So I know that's a little bit of a convoluted answer, but I just didn't feel like there was an identity.
Right.
I didn't feel like I knew what they were about.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
So Florida moves to 1-1. They'll get an opportunity this next week against Colorado State. Colorado State also in action against the SEC. Colorado State hosting Arkansas. Colorado State with a shocking upset, 34-27. 34-27. Arkansas led going into the fourth quarter. Arkansas has a 27-17 lead. And at that point, KJ Carter-Samuels and the Tennessee transfer receiver, Preston Williams, I don't know if you remember him, too much in the fourth quarters. They outscore Arkansas 17-0 in the fourth quarter to get the victory. Individually, Arkansas just absolutely inconsistent on offense. Yeah, they were still able to put up X number of points. They played 2 quarterbacks in the game, only a combined 138 yards passing. Definitely something to work on there. Backup Cole Kelly came in and relieved Ty Story. So obviously a little quarterback battle going on there. Devois Whaley, 26 carries, 165 yards on the ground. What you want to see definitely out of the Arkansas running game. Quarterback, they're going to have to find something. What can they do in just a week's time?
Well, they are. Let's see, who's Arkansas playing this Saturday?
Arkansas is at home to bounce back, to take on North Texas.
Okay, so there's your answer. I think you get a team where you can do some tuning up.
Absolutely.
If this guy earned the starting job, I don't see why you wouldn't stick with him, give him a few games, see if he can establish himself and get some kind of momentum going. Especially if you don't want to start over again. You've already had a first game why not just stick with the plan and start building on it? It's Arkansas is a system that definitely needed some rebuilding, some fine tuning, and a breath of fresh air. So he deserves time as much as Dan Mullen deserves time at Florida. So I don't think you reinvent the wheel. I think that you just keep improving. I think that what you're seeing is definitely not a finished product, and that there's a lot of patchwork going on, and that they're going to build and improve. And I think North Texas comes at a really good time, and Arkansas needs a win. The program has had a rough few years, and they just need some positive things.
So do we think Arkansas plays both quarterbacks again to try and establish some consistency with one or the other, or is Chad Morris, being another first-year guy, is Chad Morris going to lock in on one in practice this week?
I think you'd see two again.
That's what I see two quarterbacks.
I think you'll see two.
Interesting note, Mike Bobo, the head coach at Colorado State, former Georgia quarterback, former Georgia coach, offensive coordinator, gets Colorado State's second ever victory over an SEC school. Can you tell me the first victory Colorado State had over an SEC school?
No.
This is going back.
I can guess, though. Going back to when?
Going back to the early 90s.
Colorado State beat an SEC team
in
the early 90s.
An SEC team in September of 92.
All right. I'm going to guess that team was Kentucky.
It was not Kentucky. They actually had a road game down to Death Valley, LSU. Went into LSU and was able to win. Now, some people that are looking at historically and everything say, well, Missouri, they beat Missouri. Well, Missouri wasn't part of the SEC yet in the 97 Holiday Bowl. So just a fun little fact there.
Fun.
Moving on. Mississippi State handles business on the road. They travel to Manhattan, Kansas, where they take on the Wildcats of Kansas State and Bill Snyder. Historic coach Joe Moorhead moves to 2-0. Nick Fitzgerald, 11 of 27, 154 yards, 2 touchdowns coming back from his one-game suspension. Kylan Hill, the running back we talked a lot about last week, really turning heads in the first 2 weeks of the college football season. 17 carries, 211 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Obviously, Mississippi State looking good on offense. Keep in mind, Fitzgerald did not play last week. They still put up over 60. That was against a weaker opponent, obviously. But the offense still looking good, looking like it's headed in the right direction. Nick Fitzgerald settling back in.
You know, K-State, I think, is being bit a little bit by the recruiting bug. I think that the system is maybe in need of some fresh air, and I think it's difficult to recruit. As a matter of fact, you and I talked about this. When you have a coach who's been there a while, he's aging, maybe people are beginning to wonder, is he going to be there next year? Who's going to be there? It's difficult to recruit.
It is.
And so I don't know that this is quite the victory for Mississippi State that it could have been if it was K-State 5 years ago, or if it was another SEC team. It's a quality opponent. It's obviously a big-name program, but I don't think we've seen Mississippi State fully yet. But boy, what we're seeing right now gives me no reason to doubt.
Right.
But I'm also not ready to give them any kind of crowns or anything like that. But it's a really good start to the season. So that's all I feel like I can say about that.
Well, and you travel to play a non-conference game, right? And you have a quality opponent in Kansas State. However you got to do it, your goal is to get out of there, first of all, injury-free, and get out of there with just one more point than the other team. And they were able to do that.
They checked the boxes, no doubt.
Right. Moving on, we just talked about Mississippi State. Let's talk about their rival, Ole Miss. Ole Miss, a 76-41 over Southern Illinois. Was this a football score or a basketball score, I guess is what I'm trying to figure out. I heard somebody say that had this been a basketball score, they would have beaten Ole Miss's basketball team 15 games last year based on the number of points they scored at Saturday. Southern Illinois.
Well, you know, with football, when you score, you get 7 points. In basketball, you only get 2.
Maybe 3. Right. Individually Saturday for Ole Miss, Jordan, I'll say his name correctly, Jordan Ta'amu, 22 of 33 over 400, almost 450 yards, 5 touchdown passes. Southern Illinois, the Salukis, obviously a team that can put up points as well. Not much defense there. Ole Miss proved again that they have got the tools on offense. Scotty Phillips, again, 15 carries, 107 yards, 2 touchdowns. Both the wide receivers, Brown and Sanders for Ole Miss, both over 100 yards and a touchdown reception each. This was actually a very close game. I say close just because neither team could stop the other one. 49-41, Ole Miss at the start of the fourth quarter. 49-41. Ole Miss with 27 points, however, in the fourth quarter to put it away with the final score 76-41. Ole Miss is 2-0, feeling really good about themselves. You love to see the story. We talked about this with Matt Luke last week, getting his chance, it being his school, his opportunity. When you see the sound bites, when you see clips of him in practice, he's in every drill. He is in every drill. And he's doing nothing but giving these players more and more confidence, showing them how much he cares about them, how much he's got their back. As long as they continue to play for him and everything. Ole Miss got an interesting game this next weekend, and we're going to get to that game here in just a little bit. Your overall thoughts about how Ole Miss is 2-0?
Well, Coach Luke's living his dream, and that is awesome to see. And coaches like that, they can accomplish a lot at programs, especially if the program has suffered from indentured servants in the past. So it's fun to see. I'm a fan. I like Coach Luke. I will pull for Ole Miss over most any other team.
Former tight ends coach underneath David Cutcliffe at Ole Miss, took him to Duke with him, and then he gets his opportunity as well.
However, I can say a lot of great things about Ole Miss's offense and the way that they performed. But they will be playing a defense Saturday. This Saturday, Ole Miss will be playing a defense. And I tell you what, it's a different world.
It is.
And it's going to be a different universe. Now, as far as Ole Miss defensively, I think that defense is also going to be playing an offense this Saturday. So I know predictions are later, but I'm just saying we don't know much about Ole Miss, but it's going to be baptism by fire Saturday. And even then, I don't think we'll know a lot about Ole Miss, to be honest with you.
Right. All right, moving on. Wyoming taking on Missouri. Missouri with a very slow start in this game. Obviously not what offensive coordinator Derek Dooley and quarterback Drew Lock wanted. 16-0 at halftime lead with the weapons that Missouri has with Emmanuel Hall, with Demario Crockett at running back and everything. Obviously, you'd like to see some more points there. Again, slower start. But again, overall, Drew Lock, they pull away. Drew Lock, 33 of 45, over 400 yards and 4 passing touchdowns. Demario Crockett on the ground, over 200 yards, a great day on the ground there. Emmanuel Hall, leading receiver, 171 yards and a score. The offense over 600 yards. Not surprising, but what?
So how well does Drew Lock have to do, or let me rephrase this, what kind of record would Missouri have to have for Drew Lock to get a Heisman look, a Heisman consideration? Because, I mean, he is very quickly just becoming the quarterback that I keep hearing in every conversation when they're talking about the top quarterbacks in the country. Drew Lock is thrown in there. And he's got the name for it, too. I mean,
absolutely.
So what does Missouri have to do? Because obviously if they win 4 games, he's not going to be a Heisman contender.
Never, no.
But if they're bowl eligible, if they're 6-7 wins, do you look at a guy like Drew Lock and say, here's some yardage numbers, here's some completion numbers, touchdown passes? Do you separate that from the team record? Now, that's a big conversation.
Now, the correct me if I'm wrong, the Heisman Trophy goes to the most valuable player to his team. Mm-hmm. Is that right? Let me make sure I'm right about that. My point to all that is obviously
of all the team, who's most valuable, the most valuable player to his team compared to every other player to his team in the nation. Yeah. So
my point is obviously 21 years ago, a guy by the name of Peyton Manning absolutely gets snubbed. So he put up
that was ridiculous
bigger numbers than the previous year's Heisman Trophy winner. Can you name the previous year Heisman Trophy winner? Played for the old ball coach.
Which old ball coach? Oh, Spurrier?
Spurrier.
Okay, well, Warfel?
Danny Warfel? Danny Warfel.
All right.
You're right. So, and again, I bring that up a lot. Obviously, I think Peyton should have won it. But looking back 21 years later, the career he had, obviously not that upset about it. But you look over the last couple of years at some of these Heisman Trophy winners, the candidates and everything, the majority of them quarterbacks, running backs, a receiver here and there. For Drew Lock, in my opinion, to start getting Heisman talk, they're going to have to win 9, maybe even 10 games. In the SEC East, they've got to play against Georgia. If they were to pull an upset there, if they were to do something like that, they're going to have to contend well. They're going to have to show well in an SEC championship game. Drew Lock has got to be able to have success there. But you look at so many of the other great quarterbacks, not only in the SEC, but around the country right now, that after 2 weeks are already making a name. But right now, my Heisman vote right now is Kyler Murray at Oklahoma. What he's been able to put up, it's absolutely incredible. You could argue the Haskins quarterback at Ohio State. Not a huge fan of Ohio State, but that kid's a player. Within the SEC, obviously, you've got Tua. You've got several other guys throughout the country. So I think obviously at week 2, his name could be thrown into the mix. They've got to keep winning. They are not a nationally known place like Alabama yet. They're not a nationally known powerhouse, offensively, defensively, whatever yet. They do that. They win 9 or 10 ball games. He starts throwing. He continues to throw for 300-400 yards a game. Yeah, he's in the mix. Should be at least. Do you agree?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
All right, so moving on here. Auburn 63-9 over Alabama State. This game was 42-2 at halftime. Awkward score at halftime. Auburn, as I called it last week, Auburn would have a defensive score, maybe a special team score in this game. They had one of both. 2 defensive touchdowns. Jared Stidham, a very quiet night. No need to be. 6 of 11, 113 yards and a touchdown. Auburn on the ground, 429 yards rushing. That's just when you've got that capability. And this next stat is going to absolutely blow you away. 13 different people carried the ball for Auburn.
Wow.
Now you think about that offense, how they have the receiver come in motion. They show the wildcat look. They show all different types of formations. They can hand it off on the wide receiver sweep, on the counter, back to the fullback, just to the tailback. 13 different Auburn Tigers carried the ball Saturday night. Now, obviously a very diverse offense.
Yeah, but also getting a lot of guys in the game for mop-up duty because there was no contest. I mean, a lot of guys getting playing time, just getting some experience. So maybe we don't see quite that diversity going forward.
In this, and especially in the game coming
up.
Yeah,
against LSU.
Let me ask you this, though. Would you have seen the same type thing had they switched these games, and this week would have been the Washington game versus week 1?
Would we have seen the same type of diversity?
Yes.
I don't think so.
Already starting out 1-0 against a very nationally ranked opponent and everything, so you kind of know what you got at that point, right? Second game, kind of a tune-up game, kind of a game to further your depth and figure out more of what you got.
Yeah, I mean, I think against LSU we're not going to see that many guys touch the ball, but they're going to try to get their ballers in there as much as they can because this is probably going to be the best team Auburn's played so far. No disrespect to Washington, but I'm really impressed with LSU so far, and that's who Auburn's going to be looking at this Saturday, and it is tough to pick between those two. I mean, right now they have Auburn favored by 9, I believe it is today. That's what Vegas is saying.
My guess is that number drops a little bit as the week goes on.
I think so. I think they're really close here.
Well, since you bring them up, let's go ahead and talk about LSU as well. LSU a 31-0 win over Southeastern Louisiana. Really not much of a game for the Tigers. They led 24-0 at halftime. Still trying to find that mix at quarterback, the mix at running back, how those two new guys will gel together. Joe Burrow 10 of 20, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns. Nick Brissett running the ball, 19 carries, 137 yards. We saw him against Miami last week. He's the real deal at running back. Mm-hmm. He reminds me of the one that they had a couple of years ago, Ali Broussard. Just the way he runs the ball, he runs downhill. Love his running style. Darius Geis, even last year, same type of running style and everything. Obviously, in this game, you're going to see LSU, I think, try to control the clock, try to control the line of scrimmage. Passing game just hasn't been LSU's strength the last couple of years.
Yeah, but I tell you what, if they're able to just move the chains, keep the clock going, wear Auburn down, have that defense in the fourth quarter where they're sore and they're tired of stopping the run, we might see some LSU like we used to see when Les Miles was really on his game and his teams were we're playing a lot like
an early hint at a prediction. I'm just feeling here. My concern: 24-0 at halftime. You win 31-0. Only generates 7 points in the second half. 24-0. Not the biggest cushion of a lead, but considering the opponent, LSU.
Okay.
Considering the opponent, Southeastern Louisiana. Again, no disrespect. 24-0 though, you'd probably like to see a little more firepower in the second half as well. Let the starters cruise a little bit more. Is that more getting guys in, knowing you probably got the game in hand? I don't think weather was a factor in the game at all. Are you concerned if you're an LSU fan?
I don't think so. I think it was getting guys in. I think it was making sure that there weren't injuries to key guys. And I also think maybe it was to keep from showing Auburn too much.
Right.
Giving Auburn too much tape for scout teams and for practice. So.
Again, still week 2. A lot of teams just haven't fully opened the playbook up yet. A lot of room for improvement on both teams, around the league, everything. So week 3 obviously promising to be a great week. Moving on, Vanderbilt with a 41-10 win over Nevada. Obviously, Nevada not as strong of an opponent. Back to the days of Kaepernick. As we talked about beforehand, Vanderbilt's defense, though, 2 interceptions. Again, Vandy's offense got off to a slow start in this game. Vandy, it's 2 people. It's Kyle Shermer and it's Kalijah Lipscomb. Those 2 go hand in hand. Vandy's winning games if those 2 are being able to connect. Kyle Shermer, 23-32. Very good numbers, 258 yards, 2 touchdowns. Keyshawn Vaughn, the Illinois transfer, 11 carries, 93 yards, 2 scores for him as well. And again, like we mentioned a minute ago, Kalijah Lipscomb, 10 catches, right at 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. So this offense goes as those 3 go. As Kyle Shermer, Keyshawn Vaughn, and Kalijah Lipscomb go. Now, if you're shutting some of these guys down, you're putting another guy over the top of Kalijah Lipscomb. Some of these other receivers are going to have to step up at some point to help out Shermer.
I think they will.
Vandy, somewhat deep at running back. Obviously, Keyshawn Vaughn being probably the more physical back, getting the workload of the carries. And a 41-10 win, obviously. Probably quicker drives. I know a couple of the turnovers left Vandy with a short field, so not having to go the full length of the field every time. Needless to say, and we said this last week, is Derek Mason's defense for real? Again, week 3, we're going to find out. We are going to find out. Predictions coming again soon. But again, still 2-0. Derek Mason. What are your thoughts if you're a Vandy fan right now?
I'm happy.
You're very happy. Obviously.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'd have a little bit. I think I'd have a little bit of paranoia about me because it is Vanderbilt, and let's face it, Vanderbilt's known for being tough at the beginning of the year, showing a lot of promise, and then at the end of the year, they lose some of those games that you really think they should have won, with a few exceptions recently being Tennessee. But
lost to them 4 out of the last 6 years.
But by reputation, they tend to fade at the end of the year. So I think I'd be a little bit paranoid. But I still, like I said, I like Derek Mason. There's a lot of coaches in the SEC that I think just really have the right stuff going on with their programs. But again, as we talked about, it's so difficult. You're just going against the best of the best.
Right. Now let's talk about that too. Derek Mason in his 4th year, he's been given the opportunity now. He's been given the chance. So, I mean, at this point, 14, 15, 16, 17, excuse me, his 5th year. Derek Mason now in his 5th year as the Vanderbilt head coach.
It doesn't seem that long.
It really doesn't. 2014, his 1st year. He's had every option to now recruit a full recruiting class, a full graduation rate, all that stuff like that. Like we said, he's a very smart, defensive-minded person, had a great defense at Stanford. That's why Vanderbilt hired him. And he's grown into his own as a head coach, consistently being able to win 6 or 7 games every year. So obviously a lot to look forward to if you're a Vanderbilt fan. Speaking of Tennessee, though, in 4 out of 6, let's move on to Tennessee. 59-3 winner this weekend over ETSU. Former offensive coordinator Randy Sanders, the head coach at ETSU. Tennessee with 2 defensive touchdowns in this game, another block punt. That's 2 straight weeks with a block punt. A weather delay. Tennessee again off to a pretty slow start offensively. I think still trying to move guys around on the offensive line, find the group that gels together and works best together. After the delay early in the second quarter, they come back out. It was 10-0 beforehand. 38-0 at halftime. Now, several interceptions happen. Freshman Bryce Thompson gets a pick, runs it all the way down to the 3. Tennessee scores on the next play. Kick it off. ETSU gets the ball right back. It was a series of just turnovers for ETSU. Another ball gets batted up in the air. Darren Kirkland Jr. intercepts the pass, has a convoy down the end zone, down the sideline into the end zone for another score. Obviously, you like seeing Darren Kirkland get that opportunity, a guy who's been a lot injury prone, a guy that had a pretty serious knee injury last year, and then over the summer, almost ready to get out of football. Jeremy Pruitt talking to him, telling him, hey, I'll help you do whatever you need to do. The family seeing how much of a coach, he really is, how much he cares about his players. Decides to stay and finish out his career at UT. Gets the pick 6. You always like hearing stories like that. Individually, Jarrett Garantano, 8 of 13, 154. They played both quarterbacks in this game. The Stanford transfer, Keller Christ. But 154 yards for him through the air. Somewhere about 60, 70 for Keller Christ. So over 200 yards passing. And over 200 yards by a convoy of different running backs. Ty Chandler hurt in this game. A good opportunity for Tennessee to get a couple of other young backs in the game. Jeremy Banks, a freshman, showed a lot of promise, showed a lot of power the way he ran the ball. Tim Jordan brings just that extra bit of run and power, just the overall strength and still a little bit of speed. And then the Michigan State transfer, Madre London. All three getting into the end zone. All three contributing in a 59-3 win. Just a lot of tough running.
Yeah, and we still haven't seen Tennessee. I mean,
we still haven't yet.
They don't have an identity. It's just typical of a big time. Not just a rebuilding year. I mean, this is a complete rebuild of the team from the bottom up. So I think Tennessee fans really patience. I feel really bad saying that to Tennessee because I think that they've been patient for years and years, and I know it must be difficult. But I think that
it's to be a UT fan the last we can even say 10 years at times. It's been tough.
But I think that this year it's got to be an observational year. There's just going to be those games that are not going to be winnable right now, but there's going to be some wins and there's going to be a lot of promise. And I think that that's what Tennessee needs to focus on. Focus on the good stuff. I think that year 2 or 3. We're going to know more if Tennessee's going to return to their old form, but bringing on somebody with the Saban touch into the system, obviously.
Hopefully that continues.
I think it's a good idea. It's worked.
So let me ask you this: as far as a lot of these SEC teams from week 1 to 2, do you feel Tennessee got better from week 1 to 2?
Based on who that's a feeling I have, but based on who they're playing, it's just
hard to know.
Yeah, it is. It is hard to know, but I do feel like it. It just seemed like they were live. There's more energy. They were having fun.
Always good to get in front of the home crowd. Whether there's a delay, obviously there's a weather delay. I think they learned a little bit last week what to do to be prepared for something like that. I think they got better from week 1 to week 2 as far as the play calling, as far as the quarterbacks doing little things like getting the ball out on time. Garantano was sacked one time when he was trying to make a play on his own, scrambling around. Other than that, offensive line did a pretty good job of not letting the quarterback get hit. Running backs hit the hole hard. It's about all you can ask.
What did you think about the new center?
Obviously I hate that Brandon Kennedy goes down and everything, but keep in mind, they had a center there before in the spring game when they looked good running the ball when they were under center. No more of this,
high school football?
Well, not only high school football, but shotgun on 1st and goal from the 1. Can't stand seeing that. I love seeing us under center. I love seeing Tennessee trying to get back to the old things, as you alluded to earlier, getting back of just smash mouth downhill running the football.
Could you imagine Peyton Manning being shotgun on the 1?
All the time. Never.
He's going to be under center. And so, yeah, I think that the elite programs in the SEC are going to get good under center, unless it's some sort of systematic thing like Auburn. That's part of who they are. And that's part of his type of spread.
It's different there too. But when you have like Auburn, for example, from the 1 or from the 30, it doesn't really matter. Right. You bring the guy in motion. You've got 2 different backs you can give it to. Their offensive line scheme.
It's strategic. It's not protection.
With Tennessee, the last 2 years, it's simply been if the running back has been on the right, the play was going to the left. That's simply what it has been. And, not much success with it. When the team overloads, when the other defense knows what's coming.
You got the defense pointing, which I did see quite a bit of. I
saw it a lot.
Yeah, you'd see 2 or 3 guys pointing this way to each other.
Right.
Which reminds me of the DeBose era at Alabama.
Mike DeBose.
Did I say error? The DeBose era at Alabama, where
I see what you did.
see what I did there? Where we had defenses pointing to spots where our guys are going to be running, and
right.
They would all go there, and
right.
and it would be a 2-yard loss. And what would we do? We'd do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it reminded me of that. So
obviously Tennessee, Jeremy Pruitt gets his first win as the Vols head coach. Good to get that monkey off the back after the bitter taste that was in Charlotte the week beforehand, 59-3. Again, we'll talk about opponents in just a couple of minutes. I believe that's it for all the games, unless I'm forgetting somebody. Oh, yeah. The Alabama Crimson Tide. Alabama with a 57-7 win over Arkansas State. Let's pause. You can edit that out. We don't have to do that. We don't have to do that.
Oh, that's funny.
And finally, Alabama with a 57-7 win over Arkansas State. Game that really was never a ball game. Alabama led 40-0 at halftime. We saw both quarterbacks in meaningful snaps.
And they both
I love
really
what
good.
Nick Saban is doing there. Tua obviously earned the job. Okay, obviously I'm not going to bounce back and forth between Alabama and Tennessee, but much like the situation there with Garantano, with a new coach, Garantano and Chris coming in, playing a ton of ball and everything like that out in the Pac-12.
Now, have you
That's
heard,
That's what the summer is for.
Have you heard, though, that Jalen Hurts is redshirting?
Okay, with the new rule, and I have not heard that. With the new rule in college football, the first four games, you get the opportunity. See what they can do, and then decide after four games.
The word is that Jalen Hurts is redshirting as of now. So if that's the case, or if that's rumor, or what, I guess we'll see. But he looked really good.
We'll find out.
Yeah, because he looked really good. So that would be surprising. But I'm throwing that out there because I have heard that. Maybe it's just a rumor. So I'm not saying that's the case, but that's what I'm hearing. The other thing that I took away from that game, it was a little disturbing, made me feel a little bit uneasy, was the kicking situation. As far as, did you notice Alabama missed the first 2 extra points?
The kicking game has not been Alabama's strong suit in the last year.
Ended up putting in
Papanastis, is that how you say it?
Yeah. Now but the thing is,
a couple of missed kicks in the national championship game.
But he was missing extra points. But from beyond that, he was money. But anyway, they ended up putting in a redshirt freshman kicker for the extra points going forward, and he made all of them. So maybe they're just going to do a combination of this guy for extra points, right, and Papa for the long ones.
We will find out Saturday.
But
we will find out Saturday.
A little odd there, and I want to hear about Jalen. I want to know if he's redshirting, because I thought he looked darn good. I thought both guys looked really good. Of course, consider who they're playing, but this week will be more of a test, as we're playing Ole Miss SEC tests. It's always a test, so we'll see there.
Individually, real quick. Tua, say his last name again.
Tagovailoa,
for those of you that haven't gotten it. 13-19, 228 yards, pretty efficient. 4 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
4 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts, 7 of 9, very efficient. Right at 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. Okay, my receiver, I talk about him every week. My favorite Alabama receiver, Jerry Jeudy.
Judy.
4 receptions, 87 yards, 2 touchdowns. Yeah.
Judy.
Little Gomer.
Little Andy Griffin.
Little Goober Gomer reference there. Jerry Jeudy, again, 4 receptions, 87 yards, 2 touchdowns. What can this Alabama offense not do? It don't matter who the quarterback is. Obviously, it doesn't matter who the running back is. Not Najee Harris, 13 carries, 135 yards in the touchdown. Where is a weakness on this Alabama offense?
Well, we may see a little better this week in playing Ole Miss. I mean, obviously, considering who they were playing, but I seem to think of it the same way. They look really balanced, like they can do a lot of things well. Hard for defenses to prepare for because you can't scheme against them. You can't prepare for a scheme because they don't have a scheme. It's just very balanced. So that's what I think we're going to see against Ole Miss, is to see when we're playing SEC talent. When I say we, like I play for them, when Alabama's playing SEC talent, when Alabama's playing against offensive lines and quick linebackers that are 240, 250 pounds, that's when I think we'll be able to say maybe that they're stronger here than they are there. But It's very hopeful. If you're an Alabama fan, it's exciting.
Absolutely. And we've talked, over the last couple of days and weeks when we were, just talking about this Week 3 matchup. Ole Miss in the last couple of years, probably the team that's had the most success against
and
Alabama.
Maybe Auburn, Ole Miss and Auburn.
You can make an argument for either one. Yeah.
Unfortunately, because those are the two teams that have had. If anybody's had any luck, or any success, it's been those two teams. So that's why, again, Saturday's a pretty big test. Saturday, I guarantee you, this week there's been a certain ball coach reminding players.
Oh yeah, Ole Miss be very concerned. Here's the reason why. Bama, it doesn't matter what quarterback it is, it's over 600 yards of offense. So many people scoring, and Bama adding another defensive score as well. It's just a given that Alabama's defense is going to generate a score somehow, whether it's in the kicking game, whether it's an interception return, fumble, pickup, whatever. They seem to be able to do it each and every week. How good is this? The best Alabama defense under Nick Saban?
I don't know. I don't know yet. I don't think we know yet because it's
Week
hard.
3, obviously.
Yeah, there have been some really, really, really outstanding defenses. So I'm not able to say that. I'm not able to give my opinion on that yet.
Well, we'll find out Saturday night. We'll get to predictions in just a minute. So, in doing this show, with this being our second show and everything, obviously, thank you again to those of y'all that are watching this, hitting that subscribe button, leaving us comments and everything. Personally, people that we know reaching out to us. Had a couple of people reach out to us this past week with a couple of questions they wanted us to address on this show. So we're going to do that right now. I'll tell you right now, one of the biggest Florida fans ever. I'll give you his Twitter handle. He's at JKA3. That's a guy named Gator J at JKA3. Gator J wants to know, a bigger concern for Florida, the lack of a running game or the missed tackles on defense? What are your thoughts?
All right. Definitely.
Two obviously big problems.
Yeah. But I'm going to say definitely the lack of a running game. I mean, definitely. Because what is an SEC team?
In the SEC, traditionally, to be able to win games, control the time of clock, you've got to have a running game.
And conversely, when an SEC team is preparing for another, if that team does not have a good rushing defense, if that team does not have a strong rushing offense with a powerful, versatile running back, their win percentage just plummets because basically that allows quick SEC defenses to focus more on the pass. They don't even feel they have to stop the run. And so they can play more balanced without even having to really scheme against the run. I mean, they can just play more balanced naturally. And because there's a lack of a run, it's just not going to work out. So,
now, Florida's got several good running backs by committee. So it's obviously not... It's
not necessarily the position. Maybe it's the line.
Could be a mixture of the offensive line as well. To me, it looked like Kentucky did what it wanted to at times with that front seven. Yeah. Now, I think they did a good job of keeping 8 in the box. Kentucky's game plan, we talked about it earlier, was offensively sticking to the run, but defensively, they were going to make Felipe Franks beat them. Mm-hmm. And, we talked about the little short passes, the checkdowns. So the secondary's doing their job there. What can Florida do at this point moving forward offensively?
Well, they're definitely going to have to run the ball better.
Definitely going to have to figure out a way.
And that's Kentucky may be setting up a blueprint for other teams who want to beat Florida this year. I think that making sure that they have the right guys in the right positions, which takes games to develop under a new system. I think that they are going to have to be balanced because Florida has been they've been, especially under Spurrier, they were just throw first, think later, and it worked out really well. When Urban Meyer was there, it was the Tebow show. It was option. It
Percy
was
Harvin.
Spread. Yeah, it was an amazing system to watch. But they were systems. They were unique systems. They weren't a balanced pro style type of system that we see in a lot of SEC teams now. And that's Dan Mullen when he was at Mississippi State. They were a pro style type of system, and so I think he's trying to get there with guys who maybe were recruited to be in a type of system that was not a balanced pro style type of system.
You talk real quick about what Florida's had at running back the last couple of years and everything. Think back to some of them Urban Meyer, Tim Tebow teams that they had. I mean, they've got Chris Rainey, Jeff Demps, two of the fastest kids ever.
And then they had Tebow.
And then they had Tim Tebow, right? So, I mean, Keyston Moore was another one. He was obviously a bigger back, but a downhill rusher. Come in later in the game, wear out entire defense.
It was perfect.
Right. So, Jay, to answer your question, obviously, I think we both agree. Got to have a running game in the SEC. Again, just after two weeks, a lot is yet to be seen. Maybe the full thing not in. Maybe not find out this week, but definitely find out in 2 weeks when Florida makes the trip north to Knoxville.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But the other thing, though, missed tackles on defense. Obviously, that's just going to come with more technique work, more reps in practice, the more opportunities they get. Now, keep in mind, a lot of these guys, they don't get to tackle a whole lot just for fear of the injuries now. I mean, how much they do some wrap-up drills and that kind of stuff in practice, they're not getting to go full-on 11-on-11 all the time.
Is it not the most frustrating as a fan when one key player goes down with an injury from practice, from his
your
own guy,
team?
friendly fire?
Absolutely.
So they're not hitting hard in practice like years gone by. I mean,
right.
Sometimes they'll even we're just bumping,
right.
And that kind of thing. So I totally get it. I think, if it's missed tackles, that's something that can be fixed with coaching. You don't have to go out and recruit all new
film
guys.
Study, technique, all that.
And with a new system, that would make sense. But when you're not able to run the ball in the SEC, that's a lot of that is not coachable. You've either got the guys or you don't. You either have the personnel or you don't. So that would be concerning, but it's still early, so I don't think it would just be something I would be nervous about.
Jay, again, thank you for that question. Once again, y'all that are Florida fans or just SEC fans in general, this is a knowledgeable guy. Go follow him on Twitter at JKA, the letters JKA3.
And we have a brand new, fresh, it still has that new Twitter smell.
We do.
So follow us on Twitter. We are at He Said Show. So we are at He Said Show. So twitter.com/He Said Show. Yes, what we wanted was taken. That's what he said. That's what he said. But as you can imagine, all the years Twitter's been up at that, somebody got that, but some jackwagon. But anyway, He Said Show. You can follow us and we'll tweet stuff.
Send us your questions through there. Let us know if you like the show. Let us know if you hate the show. Give us some feedback. Give us some things you want us to talk about. We'll be more than happy to do it. The next question we had from Tennessee Chad. Chad wants to know, Keller Chris created some good minutes on Saturday. Is there a quarterback controversy brewing in Knoxville at all? My answer is simply, I don't think so. I think this has been Jarrett Garantano. This has been Jarrett Garantano's show from the very beginning. Former receiver at Tennessee named Jason Swain has his own radio show up in Knoxville, the Swain event. If you ever get a chance to listen to that, he's a great SEC guy. Obviously was a great receiver at the University of Tennessee. He said it all along. He said every time he got to go to practice or just hearing sound bites of everything, it was never in question. Jarrett Garantano, the size that I noticed that he put on in the offseason, where he can take some of these hits, where he can stand in the pocket. Obviously he's not getting to showcase his running ability in 2 games. We haven't seen him run at all. Personally, I like that. I don't want him taking those hits that he's been taking over the last couple of years. I want him doing what he came there to do. Sit back, try to find a way to protect him, and let him throw it to those talented receivers. We didn't talk much about them. Pretty quiet day for the receivers. With Marquez Callaway, with Palmer, with Jordan Murphy, Jawan Jennings getting back into the mix and all that. So obviously, I just don't think there's any controversy at all. I do think it is good to have that solidified number 2 backup, a proven winner out in the Pac-12, out at Stanford, 11-2 as a starter. But at the same time, with it being the SEC and having experience in the SEC, I think you go with that. Jarrett Garantano is your guy going forward.
What a backup to have.
What a backup to have. So obviously that takes a lot of pressure off him. He knows that he won the job outright in the summer, and this is his team. So barring injury, which we hope does not happen at all, Jarrett Garantano is our quarterback for this foreseeable future. That's kind of what I believe.
I like it.
You ready to do some picks? All right, let's get to some weekly picks here, okay? We'll start out early slate of games. Murray State going to the Commonwealth, to Kentucky. Does Kentucky have that post-Florida hangover at all?
No.
Kentucky big?
Kentucky's bloodthirsty.
Kentucky bloodthirsty.
Kentucky
they've got the confidence now.
Yeah, they got the swagger. They just beat Florida. Man, they're on cloud 9, and it's going to rain all over Murray State.
Right. I go with Kentucky as well. We talked a little bit about Terry Wilson, how good he's been, how good he's been developing everything. We talked about the backup quarterback, Hoke. You'll see him in this game, maybe even in the first half. Kentucky big. Over Murray State. Oh, yeah. North Texas goes to Arkansas. Chad Morris looking to get off the sour taste from the loss at Colorado State. What do you think happens with Arkansas?
I don't think it's big and impressive, but I think Arkansas finds a way. I think they establish some big time running against North Texas. I think the line pushes North Texas around. I think Arkansas wins. I want to make a prediction here because it's such a random matchup. I'm going to say Arkansas 35, North Texas 17.
Okay. So we're thinking there's going to be better quarterback play, obviously, there.
Yes, because he's of who he's playing.
Right. Good deal. MTSU travels between the hedges to take on Georgia this weekend. Georgia big.
Yep.
I won't do that again. Georgia dogs will hunker down and they will take it to MTSU.
It'll be ugly.
Both Jake Fromm and Justin Fields will both play in the first half. Be very similar week 1 against Austin Peay. Both of them get in there. McCall Hardman, probably another big day. Georgia big. Georgia definitely big. The Raging Cajuns of Louisiana head to Starkville to take on Mississippi State. What do you think? I think Mississippi State wins. I think it's closer than some people might think. Just some reason I just have that thought. The last couple of years when Louisiana has played SEC teams, they played them a lot closer. They just flat out have. And to a team right here, first year head coach, still trying to find themselves, making sure offensively and defensively they are in the right place, right time, making sure they're all playing together as a unit. I think Mississippi State wins a little bit closer than what people might think.
Yeah, I'm just having trouble getting interested in that game. What's next?
There you go. Next, Louisiana Monroe heads to Aggieland to take on Texas A&M. Texas A&M obviously looking to bounce back. Again, we talked about no moral victories out of a loss. But at this point, they know what they've got. We talked about earlier in the show. They know what they've got in Kellen Mond. They know what they've got in Travion Williams. They know what they've got in that group of receivers. A&M
mad and big. Yeah.
A&M big. Nick Starkle gets in the game. Has a good day as well. Missouri. This is an interesting one. The SEC heading to take on Big Ten foe Purdue.
That is interesting.
Missouri currently, I believe I saw. Well, I won't say what the line was, but Missouri is favored to win in the game. Jeff Brom, head coach, Purdue.
Now, what did Purdue do to Missouri last year, though? Do you happen to remember?
I do not remember.
Purdue made mincemeat out of Missouri. And we need to check on the score, but I don't even know if Missouri scored more than a couple touchdowns. So it was unexpected, but Purdue really put the hurt on Missouri last year. So, a more experienced Locke going against somebody who embarrassed him last year. I think there's some more motivation there. So I do think Missouri will take it this year, especially with coaching staff reminding them of what happened last year.
Right.
So I think Missouri gets a little bit of revenge here, playing more like an SEC team.
Right. We got to watch Purdue play in the opening week of college football on Thursday night against Northwestern. Uncharacteristic turnovers, a bad turnover right before halftime. Northwestern just really capitalized and took advantage of it. Ended up winning the ball game. Purdue's hasn't played its best game yet. I think we would all agree with that. Just those of us that have been able to see them play and everything. I think they hang around and they make it interesting, but I think it's just too much. Drew Lock, Crockett, Emmanuel Hall. I think it's too much of the Missouri offense in the second half. I think they pull away to a 3, maybe 4 touchdown victory late.
Yeah, I think Locke comes out there, looks great, is electric, gets 3 touchdown passes and puts it away late with some Missouri running. So I think Missouri.
Okay. Colorado State, after their big win over Arkansas, heads down to the Swamp to take on Florida, who's obviously looking to get that taste out of their mouth as well. I really want to pull the trigger here. I really want to pull the trigger, but I really think Dan Mullen, I don't know what his message to the team was after the game, what it was Sunday in the film room. This week, it's just got to be about fundamentals and getting better. Florida finds a way to get this win.
I think he tweaks here and there, simplifies some things, and they find a way. I think that's what happened.
Florida's secondary is definitely a whole lot better than what we've seen so far. The one big pass that Kentucky had really hurt him, but you give any quarterback that much time to sit back there and throw, he's going to find somebody open. He found somebody open deep. Preston Williams, kind of the go-to guy for Carter Samuels in the Colorado State offense. Who knows? I think it's a game at halftime. Colorado State could very well be leading at halftime.
They're going to have confidence coming in.
They're definitely going to have confidence coming in. I think Florida rallies, though. I think the crowd gets into it. I think that loud swamp Gator country crowd gets into it, and I think Florida pulls away at the end. I won't say about how much, but I do think Florida does get a win.
I agree. I'm gonna make a little prediction. I'm gonna say we're gonna see a 28-13.
28-13 game. Okay. A game that we had on here, Marshall at South Carolina, canceled because of the hurricane. Obviously, we want to take this opportunity. All the Carolinas. Central Florida was supposed to play at North Carolina as well. Clemson had a home game as well. Obviously, all those that are having to seek shelter and everything, please be safe. Know that you're in our thoughts. And obviously, these games I don't believe are going to be made up at this point, but obviously a more serious ordeal at hand. People be without power. People may lose things and everything like that. So obviously, something that we definitely are thinking about you guys with. So, again, our thoughts are with you guys, and I hope everybody makes it through safe.
Absolutely.
Moving on, UTEP, the Miners of Texas El Paso, rolling to Knoxville. Tennessee big. I think Tennessee, again, very similar to the game that they played last week against ETSU. Same kind of mindset. To piggyback what I was saying about Chad's question earlier, I do think we see both quarterbacks in the game. Hopefully not another weather delay. This is a noon kickoff, though, so obviously early in the day, let's hope Tennessee's offense gets more acclimated to playing together, and let's hope Tennessee's offense gets an earlier start. We're not waiting until the second quarter to get started. I have Tennessee big.
Yeah, I think Tennessee big. I think we see a lot of throws and a lot of catches. It's going to rain. It's going to rain Tennessee. It's going to rain Tennessee big, and you're going to see both quarterbacks play, and you're going to see both of them look good, and I think the quarterback controversy officially begins.
Great. Now, in this game here, so obviously the emphasis last week was the running game. They got 3 running backs in there. Actually got 4 in there late. But 3 running backs that are going to contribute to this team. Ty Chandler, the 4th guy, didn't play. And again, they had a 5th guy that even got in there. Do we think the emphasis is going to be more on the passing game since we leaned so much on the running game last week? Is it a situational deal, or is their game plan we need to be throwing the ball more?
I think they're going to work on everything, but I think they're going to try to throw the ball a lot more and get both these guys some work. I think they're going to try a lot of different people, and I think they're going to work on everything. I don't think there's going to be emphasis on one or the other.
Aside from Alabama, what team in the SEC has a pick 6 this week? Give me your guess.
What team in the SEC has a pick 6 this week?
Give me your best guess.
Georgia.
Okay. We were going to count. It's all right. I think it's Florida. I think Florida gets Henderson gets back there, jumps a route, takes it in for a score. Florida needs something like that right now.
They do.
Florida needs something like that. All right. Moving on to the more intriguing game of the weekend. Vanderbilt heads up to South Bend to touchdown Jesus to take on Notre Dame in the Fighting Irish. Who wins?
Notre Dame. I don't like it, but Notre Dame. I think Vanderbilt starts tough, but I think Notre Dame's just too deep, just too much of an elite team, and Vanderbilt's just not quite there yet. But I really hope I'm wrong.
We talked about the running game with Keyshawn Vaughn earlier and everything. If Vanderbilt can find a way to not control the line of scrimmage, but to be able to have a balanced attack of pass and run, if they can keep Shermer from getting hit repeatedly, Vandy can hang around in this game. Vandy can definitely hang around.
Definitely can.
In this game. Again, though, I'm kind of with you at the very end of it. I think it's just too much Notre Dame. Make no mistake about it, though. Vandy gives them everything.
Yeah,
this definitely can be a closer game.
I'm picking Notre Dame, but I will be pulling for Vandy.
Score
35-24.
You think it'll be that high scoring? Okay.
I do.
Well, good. Alabama at Ole Miss. Alabama at Ole Miss. The Crimson Tide, undefeated Crimson Tide, who score in every way possible, take on an Ole Miss team in Oxford who can score every way possible as well. We finally find an opportunity here this early in the season, two good teams. Obviously, we know who you're picking, but is this a game that can be close as far as right now it's 20.5, correct? As far as the spread goes, Alabama's favored by 20.5. Can Ole Miss cover that?
Oh, they can. I don't know that they will, but they can, especially with the offense we saw last week. But I think that obviously Alabama's going to be prepared, and not just be prepared, but there's going to be motivation because it is Ole Miss, because Ole Miss has given them so much trouble over the last 3 or 4 years. So I really feel like Alabama's going to come out there with a chip on their shoulder, which cannot be a good thing to see if you were on the other side of Alabama. Not just seeing Alabama, but Alabama with a chip on their shoulder. That's to me, that's the wild card in this game. If Alabama comes out with the chip on their shoulder, I think that we will see. I think it will get really ugly. Like we're talking a goose egg type scenario, even against the offense we have Ole Miss. Not necessarily because Alabama's just that much better, though they are better, but because Alabama's mad, because Alabama has something to prove, because Ole Miss has. Ole Miss has taken Alabama to the woodshed the last 3 years, really. So I think that's what we're going to see is a mad Alabama team, a very talented mad Alabama team.
No more Chad Kelly, though. No more Chad Kelly. So it's going to be interesting to see what Ole Miss is able to do. Obviously, the Ole Miss quarterback obviously going to have to play well. Ole Miss can't fall behind early. That's the biggest thing. It's in Oxford. You've got the crowd on your side. That crowd will be loud. Crowd will be half crimson color as well.
I thought you were going to say half drunk, but go ahead.
That too. Hotty toddy. They know how to party. I will say this though for Ole Miss. I will say Ole Miss this week with Matt Luke and everything. Hey, this is just another cool, calm game for Matt Luke. This is why he's the head coach at Ole Miss, to coach in these kinds of games. Okay, Ole Miss will be prepared 100%. Yeah. They will be electric coming out on that field. They will be electric on the sideline before kickoff. But then there's going to be the kickoff. And unfortunately, Alabama will roll all day long, all over Ole Miss. Ole Miss has the potential to keep it close. They have the potential. I just don't see it. Alabama scores in every way. On offense, they score on defense. Their kickers, the kicking game as far as field goal, obviously we touched on that. Not what it wants to be, but whoever's doing the kickoffs, doesn't matter. They put it 10 yards deep every time. Ole Miss has already had a special teams kickoff return for a touchdown. They're not even going to get the opportunity for that. I think Alabama rolls big.
I agree, and I don't think that's a bad reflection on Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss still has a bright future under Coach Luke. I really do. I just think right now anybody going against Alabama is going to lose. Alabama's the hot team right now, and it's great to be an Alabama fan for that reason. But especially this week, I think they're mad, and I think Ole Miss is going to get the fist to the face. So.
We move now to our game of the week, what we've deemed to be the game of the week between LSU heading down to Jordan-Hare to take on the Tigers at Auburn. Obviously, Coach O, Coach Malzahn, two guys that love the schools where they are. Who wins it?
Now, I go back and forth with this every day, so I may change my mind tomorrow. Because yesterday I was thinking LSU. The day before that I was thinking Auburn. Because in my mind, I'm most excited about watching this game this week. Obviously, I want to see Alabama play, but I'm telling you, just in terms of the competition of being able to be a neutral third party and watch a game and enjoy it, I've been thinking about this game for a couple weeks. And so I'm really excited about it. This is a battle of the unbeatens at this point. And so my prediction, again, could change tomorrow. But as of right now, I'm seeing LSU pulling out a narrow victory.
Like it.
Under 2 touchdowns, but I do think LSU will be able to wear Auburn down some, and that Auburn's going to be sore in the fourth quarter from being run against by a big bruising tailback. And I think that LSU's going to throw it too. I think LSU's going to do both successfully against Auburn. I think Auburn is going to do both successfully against LSU.
Right.
I think LSU just wears them down and finds a way to win at the end. That's my prediction today. So I'm sticking with it for now.
I think the Tigers win.
Oh, wow.
I think the Tigers win.
That's good.
More specifically, I do believe LSU gives them a game. I do believe the running game is going to be very strong for LSU. They get the opportunity to control the line of scrimmage. They get the opportunity to control the clock if they're being able to run the ball well. But make no mistake about it, Auburn's offensive attack and how quickly they can run a play on offense, how quickly they can get lined back up and everything, I think is going to be the key. Malzahn loves to eat at Waffle House with his wife after they win.
And who doesn't?
He's going to be eating at Waffle House Saturday night after this game. Auburn in a close victory, but I do think Auburn gets it done.
All right. Can I change my pick?
No,
I'm kidding.
It's on camera.
I'm going to say LSU, and we have Auburn here, so we'll see what happens next week and who gets to brag. But it's going to be an exciting game. Who's not going to watch that game?
Exactly. So, again, this show's a little bit longer. Obviously, we'll probably go back and edit it just a little bit or what have you. But this show has been a little bit longer than last time. We don't care. We know you don't care. It's just, again, two guys talking SEC football that love to do what we do.
Not just two guys. We're self-proclaimed geniuses.
Self-proclaimed geniuses. There you go. SPGs.
Thank you for watching. Click the subscribe button below so that you can be notified when we have other shows. And this has been That's What He Said. Hit the subscribe button below so that you can be notified when we have other shows. This has been That's What He Said. This is Lee speaking for Brandon, and That's What He Said. Have a good week. Hope your team wins.
Peace.